This is INCRadio, DCEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
And welcome to INC Radio, South Central State Satellite Studio. I am your host today, Arnie, and I am actually live from California because I'm here visiting family, which just happens to be our topic. So with me, we have a few guests. So go ahead and introduce yourselves.
All right, I'll go first. Nathan Russell here in Fort Worth. I'll go ahead and hand it off to our guest from Oklahoma.
Nala Rangai. I'm actually here in Dallas, also here with family.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. We did post a question of the day this morning, and it is, how big was your last family get-together? Go ahead and put that into our chat, and we'll be reading those live during our show. So, Nala, how big was your last family get-together?
Our last family get-together was actually this one, and we had about 9 of the family members here in the house with us, so it was the biggest that we've had in a while. It was nice to see everybody.
How about you, Nate? How big's your family get-togethers?
Well, the one we have right now is kind of last minute, but my parents and my sister and her family came down here to visit us. But I think the biggest was like maybe when I was like a really, really little, and we had a big family reunion up in Massachusetts with my dad's side of the family.
And how big was that?
Oh, it was like aunts and uncles and everything from like everywhere. That was probably the biggest one I could think of. Yeah.
So I've got a huge family, and that's why I have to go to Sacramento because they're basically all in California, except for the few that we have like in Copenhagen and Norway. And when we get together, it's massive, because grandma had 12 kids, and then each of the kids had their own kids, and then all my siblings have kids. So I'm on 20 nieces and nephews right now. We just had a recent newborn. So we're up to 20 now, just with the nieces and nephews. So it's pretty huge. And our family get-togethers are very loud and chaotic, as you know, with big families. That's what happens. So it's pretty.
I might take that back. It might have been in the Philippines, because when you have a family get together in the Philippines, you find out that you have more family that you didn't know existed.
Oh, that's so true. Yeah. Nala, when you went back to the Philippines, did you discover how big your family is over there?
I don't think I even fully found out how big the family is because we went to separate sides. So we went to my mom's side and then my dad's side, and there were quite a lot of family members that I didn't know we had. So yeah, you're not wrong.
So
what about you, Arnie? Did you have family in the Philippines? You ever go to the Philippines?
Oh, yes. See, like the family I'm talking about here is just my grandma and her kids. It's not even like my dad's side of the family. It's just my mom's side. And it's not even with my grandma and all her siblings in the Philippines. In the Philippines, it's massive too. And so I've never been used to like small family gatherings. It's always been big. Because even before, when I was living here in Sacramento, we would get together, just the cousins, and there's like 30 of us, and we would get together once a month just to, celebrate each other's birthdays or when there's milestones in people's lives. So that was like a regular thing that we did. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And so let's go with our first thinking cap. Since we're limited with our time, we're going to have to go through our first thinking cap question.
Okay.
Do we have that ready, Nate?
Yeah, since it's kind of like travel themed. So who is your first cousin's daughter in relation to you? Is it A, your first cousin once removed, B, your niece, C, your nephew, or D, your grandniece? So yeah, all our questions today will be family and travel related, since we know a lot of us are traveling or visiting family. So just put down the letter in the chat. And we actually saw a note from in the chat from Oliver Villanueva, brother Oliver Villanueva, the minister down there, I think in Biloxi,
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. Yeah. Uh, he said his family get together was literally a village. All right, I'm gonna butcher this. So, Sapang, Marigal, Tarlac City. Did I butcher that?
You could tell me and I can go read it for you.
That was my attempt.
That is so funny.
But yeah,
Yeah,
we do have a lot from Baton Rouge, New Orleans, as always, tuning in right now.
yeah. And we also have folks from Biloxi also on. And did you see Jerry's comment? It's so cold where he's at that he's using our mug.
Yeah, he was a winner from last month, so we'll find out. I think Renz, brother Renz, is still in the lead here in Fort Worth, so we'll see if he holds that
Okay.
lead today.
Okay, so go ahead, put in your answers. Don't forget just the letters, and then that way we can see who wins for the month of November. This is the last week, and then next week we got to start a new one.
Yep, that's right.
All right. Very good. Okay, so in back to our questions, like in society, which often promotes being self-centered, why is it actually important to maintain strong family bonds? Nala?
I think it's important so that way you don't become self-centered, right? Because having family requires you to think outside of yourself, to consider needs that may not be the same as your own, right? So you, as maybe if you're in the same age group as I am, you might be young and healthy now, but being more family oriented makes you think, okay, what do my younger siblings need? What do my family need? Does my grandparents need anything today? And having that kind of mindset makes you a more compassionate person, I think, which, the world could use a little more of.
Yeah, that is so true. So like when you were talking about supporting, like what has your family done to support other family members who are in need?
Quite a lot. I mean, like, whenever any of us are in need, like, we'll send each other, if it's help financially, we'll call each other if any of us are feeling sad, make time to go see each other. It's it it's such a small effort, and I think that effort can be daunting sometimes, especially if there's like an age gap between people. Like generational gaps are a thing as well. But you know whenever we need help, all of that kind of gets set aside, and I think, again, it leads to being a more compassionate person, because you kind of ignore all of that to make sure that someone you care for, not even just because it's blood related, but someone you care for is in trouble, and you do what you can to help them.
Yeah, I mean, and that rang true in our family. With my grandma, she was very family centered, where she didn't even want people to move outside of a 5 mile radius from where she was. And so, growing up, she kept a very tight knit family, where every Sundays we would have dinner at her house. And even though all my cousins lived in different locations, we all used her address as our address growing up, so that everybody went to school together. And with her thing was, she did not believe in babysitters or daycare or preschool. She made sure everyone was brought to her house. She took care of everybody. And so then, we never had to go to daycare or have babysitters. And then when she had passed, my aunts and uncles kind of took on that role, because what some would do is, what some would work during the day, some would work at night, and then that way there would be people there to take care of the other children without having to do the whole babysitter and daycare. So Nate, because I know you're away from your family, but how does the family support system, how does that work for you?
Well, having been a teacher before, one thing that we learn about the studies when it comes to success, like student success, is like, how is the family situation? That is like the number one indicator of how successful an individual is going to be. So that's just proving that the family support system and maintaining the family, actually, there's evidence that shows that maintaining that has value on a person's life. And we see that often. And one thing that I've realized too is not just for parents and the children, but as your parents get older, because as my parents get older, are the children looking out for the well-being of the parents? So it's like, are we reciprocating that? Are we, I guess, I don't want to say like paying it back, but, paying it back to our parents for raising us? Are we also taking care of them in their old age? Because they also have emotional needs that we need to look out for.
Yeah, and I'm glad you just brought that up because we're starting to realize it now because my parents are getting up there, and they're retired, so they live part of the time in the Philippines, and so they were still supposed to be in the Philippines right now, but they had to come back all of a sudden because now they're getting sick. And there's no one there to take care of them. And so now they're here in Sacramento living with my sister, and we are taking turns doing things for them. And I think when your parents get older, it's different than taking care of a child. Honestly, I thought like taking care of my nieces and nephews were kind of difficult, but now taking care of an aging parent, I think it's more difficult than taking care of children.
More
How do you
difficult, more stubborn. Maybe.
that? Yes, that. And because and it's funny because with and I don't know what the rules are in your house, but in our household, it's one of those where whatever shoes you wear outside, you are not bringing it in the house. You have to have house slippers. And that's how my parents raised us as kids. And so that's how we are as adults. And my dad is getting to the point where he's starting to forget things. And all of a sudden he's bringing his shoes in the house. And when my sister would tell him, you can't bring that into the house, he just looks at her, and I'm like, Dad, it's your fault. That's how you raised us. So now that's how we are. So we had to play by their rules, and now they have to learn how to play by the rules that they set on us, which I think is very different. Nala, like your parents, are they like at a very old age? Are they still in their younger ages?
They are very young, always and forever.
Safe answer.
Enjoy it.
No, they're not extremely old. They tell us all the time that they're getting older, but uh they're still young. They still have like a lot of their faculties around them. So I feel fortunate that taking care of them is less of me like having to, as you say, like teach or like reteach them the rules, and more of like just differing communication styles. I've said in other shows before, but like communication is such a big component of any relationship you have, whether that be platonic, romantic, especially familial, because when you and your parents, your relationship evolves so much as you grow. And if you let your ego, whether that you be your parents or you as a child, if anybody lets their ego get in the way of that, it can be difficult to have any sort of communication as a family.
Yeah, that's so true. Because I know like sometimes with the siblings, they will, complain here and there. And then we're like, hey, it's what we got to do. They took care of us the whole time we were growing up. So now, like Nate was saying, it's not like we're paying them back, but it's, it is our responsibility. They are our parents. They took care of us. So it is something that we need to do.
Yeah,
But
that was something I realized like after I had my son and I look at him and I think about him looking up to me, seeing that perspective, then understanding where my parents are a lot. It made a lot more sense to me. And the whole family thing, because I was very much independent growing up. So when I moved out of my parents' house, I was like, see ya. And I lived off on my own. I moved to Texas by myself. And it was very much like, all right, I'm living my own life. I kind of want to be away from my parents because, I'm living my own life. But now that as I'm getting older, I have a son and I see my parents getting older, I'm like, all right, I want to kind of bring everything back now.
oh, Nate, we can't hear you. But you know what? And what's funny is I did the same thing with my siblings. I said, you guys better be nice to your kids because whoever your favorite child is, that's the one who's going to take care of you.
Well, we just have one, so he better be the favorite.
Well, yeah, he better, And then that's why I was like, oh, I got to be nice to my nephews because one of them is going to have to take care of me. I don't have kids.
And it just kind of worries me because I do see it in my son. I see that independent streak in him. So it's like, all right, I'm gonna have to, teach him about, the value of family. It's something you might have to teach and spell
Yeah.
out to your kids if they don't fully understand it.
I fully get that. I'd like to cut my parents off now and say I had an independent streak when I was growing up. But I also, early on, I learned the importance of listening to your parents. They may not agree that I learned it very early on, but um, I wanted to, as soon as I got into college, live on college campus and be by myself. But, I think for those kids who have like an independent streak, it's so important to listen to what your parents say, especially if it's not like harmful to what your plans are. Like if your plans are to go live on college campus like mine was, thinking about it from a financial, just like if you are independent, think about it from a financial point of view. Living with your parents is so much cheaper than trying to pay for all of the food, all of the other things you would need. You would pay less for gas and all that jazz. So, you know, family can be important in teaching you other skills too, not just like compassion. It's teaching you financial responsibility. It's teaching you emotional maturity, which, that's an important thing, especially in today's world.
Yeah, that's so true. Because my parents taught us independence, in case anything would happen to them, they wanted to make sure that we would be okay. And so I think with them teaching us independence really helped me when I did go off to college because, from a young age, they were making us cook and all that stuff. So we're like, oh, why do we got to cook? And then all of a sudden you go off to college. I'm like, hey, at least I know how to cook. So, anyways, let's go with our second thinking cap question.
All
Nate?
right. So, second one, this one's travel related. So, which of the following AITA airport codes has the incorrect city associated with it? Is it E, EWR for Newark? Is it F, LSA for Los Angeles? Is it G, JFK for New York? Or is it H, IAH for Houston? So, one of these is incorrect. So, if you've traveled, you've probably recognized these three-letter symbols for the airports. I know Arnie knows this one for sure
Yes, that one I know for sure.
because she works for the airlines. So yeah, drop your letter in the chat. And I'm kind of worried. I don't see Brother Renz in the chat.
Oh,
He
he
might
might
lose.
lose.
He
He
might
might
lose
lose
his
his lead.
mug.
And on the last day too. No, it's funny. And I've actually been to all those places. That's kind of why I know those airport codes. So
Nice.
yes.
All
And
right.
that's the thing. Like how often do you travel to go see family?
I try to go at least once a year, or at least once a year. I mean, we tried to do the Thanksgiving tradition. Things got hectic this year, and we thought we wouldn't, but that's why we kind of put it together last minute, which is better. It's better than not seeing each other at all. But also, like me and my son, my dad, and my brother-in-law, we like to do a road trip every year. We started that tradition, although we didn't get to do it this year because schedules and whatnot. But I know anytime I try to schedule something like that, because before I wanted to just take vacations on my own, and now it's like no, I want to plan something where I can involve everybody and everybody can come together.
Yeah, my sisters and I usually have an annual trip that we take. Depending where we go and what we do, it varies every single time. And so, actually, next week we're going to be up in Seattle to spend a few days there because my sister has a conference, and so we're going to bum off her hotel and get a free hotel. And stay a few days in Seattle. So we like to do that, even though there's six of us kids, but there's only four of us who like to go on trips on a regular basis. And so we try to do that as often as we can. And then, like I said, I always try to come home back to California to visit family as often as possible. So what about you, Nala? Besides, your family in Oklahoma City, where else do you normally go to visit family?
We come to Texas whenever we can, scheduling trips to come visit my family out here. And aside from that, my sister and I will take trips ourselves to go bond a little bit more, especially since situations may be changing later on down the line. Other than that, my parents will come and visit us for different points of the year, and I we don't get to go visit my brother very often. I think this year's the first year that we were ever able to go visit him, but my mom's hoping we make that a yearly trip. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. And with your brother, you're probably going to have to be the ones to go visit him wherever he goes.
Yeah, but it could be fun depending wherever he gets assigned.
Exactly, exactly. When I had friends who were assigned in Europe, that gave me a reason to go to Europe. And if they weren't there, I probably never would have went. And then once you go to Europe, you get hooked and you always want to go back.
This is true. I still think about the times when I went to Europe. So
Yes. I know we got to do a whole segment just on Europe and all the places to go because I need to go back there. So I need a reason to go.
I have yet to go to Europe. I've been to Paris, Texas, though.
Yes, we saw that. We saw that. But still, no, you need to go make it out there. I'm telling you, it's a whole different world, right, Nala?
their transportation system is superior to anything here.
Yes. Yeah. You do not need a car to survive in Europe, which is the coolest thing.
Oh,
And
that's the opposite of what I want. I love driving myself.
if you do have a car, their road systems are a lot better, in my opinion. I swear by the roundabouts in Europe.
No, and you know what I noticed? Because like with Colorado, with the ski cities, they try to make it kind of like European style, and they had roundabouts everywhere, and I loved it because it's so true. It's so much easier than having the four-way stop signs or stop lights. But yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Actually, yeah, my grandma and I went to Ireland a couple years ago. It was scary because I was driving on the wrong side of the road, but the roundabouts made everything so much easier. It only took me a couple to learn how to do it.
See, that's the thing. I'm not brave enough to drive in Europe because I don't know if I could drive on the other side of the road. I'm scared.
Those roundabouts say a lot about a person because, like, I think assertive types, when they go to a roundabout, they're like, yes, I can go when I feel like it. And then those who are a little more passive, they're like, oh, I hate roundabouts. I do not want to be in a roundabout. And they don't know when to go. But yeah.
It's a very decisive thing in my family too. You can definitely tell who's the passive and who's the aggressive ones in my family.
Yeah. And for me, I think like roundabouts have less traffic because like you said, you go freely. You're not restrained by the stoplight or the stop sign. So I think that's pretty cool. But anyways, let's go to our third thinking cap questions because we're running out of time.
All right. Number 3, looks like everybody's in play today. So what is the longest U.S. interstate highway? Is it I, Interstate 10, J, Interstate 20, K, Interstate 95, or L, Interstate 90?
All
Go ahead and
right.
drop your final answer into the chat. I think I've been on all of these at some point. But yeah, which one is the longest?
Yes.
And
I've been
real
on
quick,
all
I'll
those.
just flash the leaderboard. So here you could see, um, from the very top, there's some who are only 2 points away, and we had 3 questions. So
And you know what, Nate? I think we forgot to give out the answers from last week.
I don't even
So
remember. What did we ask last week?
so last week was like which one of those colleges was not part of the Ivy League, and Stanford was
Oh yeah, it
the
was Stanford. Yeah, yeah.
Stanford was the answer, and then like the oldest university, which was Harvard.
Yep.
So
So
we didn't
hopefully
give
you got
those
that
answers
right.
out.
Well, I guess
So
they found out when they saw the leaderboard if they got it right or not.
so put in your answers, and while we're doing that, what is advice that you can give to the youth when it comes to appreciating our parents and our families? Nala, we'll start with you.
I think the biggest thing that the youth and like especially whenever I was growing up that I learned is how to be patient. Your family is, for better or worse, they're going to know a lot of the ways to get under your skin, but also they're going to be the best to know how to make you feel better, even if you don't always want to admit that, right? Like me and my mom used to clash all the time because she would say things and I would get mad because I knew deep down inside she was right, but I didn't want to admit she was right. So don't let your ego, don't let your pride get in the way of building deeper connections. And again, communication is always my big thing. Your parents just want the best for you whenever they can give you the best. So, come into conversations with an open heart, with an open mind. Be willing to be honest with them. That's something that I only recently learned, because they're not always, if you go into the mindset of, if you go into conversations with them with the mindset of, I'm just going to get in trouble if I say this, well, you're only going to get in trouble if it's bad. And you're going to get in even worse trouble if you hide it. So, you know, I think that's a big thing, is just understanding that they're human beings too. They're not infallible. They're not going to be perfect, but just as they love you and all of your imperfections, you gotta give them grace too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it doesn't matter how big or small your family is. They tend to be there for you no matter what. If you sometimes we always rely on our friends, but other times it is usually your family who comes through for you. And I appreciate my family because, like I said, we're huge. And I think the one advantage of being in a big family is if you don't get along with others, it's okay because there's still others you could actually hang out with and get along with. And so that's why I'm kind of happy we've got a big family. What about you, Nate? What would you like to share with the youth, like your child?
Well, it seems to be trendy for the youth to kind of look at their parents and point out all their flaws and use that as a reason to, not love their parents. I'm just going to say that because that's kind of what we see. But, every generation is not perfect, but, families, especially when you're talking about generations, they don't progress unless, they're built on top of the efforts of the ones that came before them. So our parents aren't perfect and our grandparents weren't perfect, but here we are, hopefully we've been able to move forward in our own families. So we take everything that we've learned from our parents. We take all, that they provided for us, and we make sure we can move our families forward and provide even better for the next generation, but never to look back and to, judge them, based on, what society standards are now. So that's the advice I give to the children nowadays.
Yeah, very good. Very good. So we're going to close off the chat so that they can't put any more answers.
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and go with the answers from our thinking caps. So the first one was, who is your first cousin's daughter in relation to you? And the answer is A. That is your first cousin once removed. I thought I saw a lot of people put niece, but yeah, that's your first cousin.
It's A. So maybe Ren still is gonna. What if we have a tie? Oh, we're gonna have a problem on our hands.
Oh, we'll see. Oh, we didn't do an extra question, huh? Oh well, that's okay. Okay, the second question, which of the following AITA airport codes has an incorrect city associated with it? And that is F, Los Angeles, because Los Angeles is LAX, not LSA. Very good. And then the last one, what is the longest U.S. interstate highway? And the answer is L, I-90. I think a lot of people got that one right.
Yep, that one goes from, what is it, Seattle up to Maine, something like that.
I think that's the only freeway I haven't been on. I've been on the 10, the 20, and the 95, but the 90 I have not been on yet. Yeah. I don't like driving where it's cold. Okay, so those are our answers. Thank you for all those who participated. Please keep tuning in. Next month, we're going to start new thinking caps. And so it'll restart over again. So we'll let you guys know next week who wins. And then Nate will get the mug sent over. Before we end, we'd always like to thank our CFO coordinator and SEPSI president, Brother Angelo Irano Manalo, and our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. Thank you all for tuning in this week. And we will see you next week, same time. And I don't know what our topic is yet.
We'll have a topic, yeah.
But thank you all for joining. See you next time.
This is INCRadio, DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.